Hi guys, welcome back. Today I have again amazing guest. His name is Trevor Paxton. He has been working in Riot Games and worked on some titles that you may know. His art is amazing, as you of course know. And today he has agreed to come and speak with me. Hi Trevor.
Hey man, how's it going?
It's going really good. How about you?
It's not so bad.
Not so
Uh,
bad.
just trying to learn German.
Trying to learn German. So how is it in Germany now? You have
Uh,
moved there six, if I'm correct, 6 months ago or something like that.
yeah, just a little bit more, just a little bit more. Oh no, 11 months ago.
11 months ago.
Yeah,
Nice. The time is flying.
yeah, it's crazy. I should know more German by now.
Yeah, yeah, it takes time to learn it, right? So, what have you been working on there?
In Germany,
Yeah.
really just trying to settle in, trying to learn the language. My wife's a German citizen, but I have to do a bunch of stuff for my residency here. Like I have to take 600 hours of German classes in 3 years.
Yep.
Um, and I'm doing it 12 hours a week, which is excruciating. Absolutely excruciating. There's so many rules in the language, but 60% of the time you're supposed to ignore the rules and you have to conjugate literally every word. So it's it's terrifying.
Yeah, yeah. It's improvisation all the time, right?
Oh yeah.
But you're an artist, so it must go good. We improvise a lot.
Oh yeah, well, you get by any way you can.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. So, you have worked in Riot Games before. It's one of the most famous companies. Can you tell us a little bit about that? How you got there? Uh, what was your path to coming to there?
Um, well, let's see. I had left my job at CCP Games in Atlanta. Uh, it was let's see, 4.5 or 5 years. I'm sorry, hold on for one moment.
No worries. We
Hold
are
on.
here. I will show you the work. He has to answer the door, so no worries.
Okay, sorry about that.
No worries. We are here. Just a casual chat.
Okay. Um, I had been there for just about 5 years. Made some amazing friends, worked on a couple of cool things, but overall just wasn't particularly happy. Wasn't very happy with the city of Atlanta. Wasn't particularly happy with our particular branch of the company.
I see.
And so I figured it was time for a change. I took a couple of months off and just worked on my own personal stuff, and it was great because I think in the span of 2 or 3 months, I grew like a year or two worth. Just having that weight lifted from my shoulders, and then after a month or so or 2 months, and starting to worry about, well, I have a child now, as I had a new daughter, and I had a son on the way.
Nice.
Uh, I was like, I'm gonna have to start worrying about insurance soon and not living off savings and house payments and crap like that. And so I started looking around for work, and I just figured they had approached me, I think twice before, and I was just like, nah, I'm not sure it's for me. I'd never played the game, and a couple of friends kept after me about it, and I was like, oh, okay, let's just see what this is all about. And
Yeah.
I figured it'd be good because I felt my work was very rigid, stiff, and it still is rigid and stiff. But I was hoping that going to a place like that where they do this sort of zany, cartoony stuff, like it would help me loosen up a little bit. And I think it did. I think it did.
Yeah. And you said that you can quit your job, and then that was a very brave move for somebody to do. And then you started working on your personal projects.
Yeah.
Uh, my main question about that is because I also did that, and I decided to make something out of myself in a way where I'll work in the field which I like.
Hmm.
So how did you tackle that, and how did you choose the field that you want to do? What was your idea about the field that you're gonna enter?
To be honest, I have no idea. I don't. I don't. I know. I don't ever want to work at a large game studio again.
Uh-huh.
I I just, as far as I can tell, I know everybody will say, "Well, my company's awesome." As far as I can tell, most places are the same. They don't really want your input; they just want your hands. And I'm not that kind of artist. I'm not that kind of guy that can be happy going into work and turning my brain off and cranking out whatever um, ideas that I don't even believe in,
Yeah.
cranking out like nonstop just because somebody says, "Oh, this is good" or "This is popular right now." It's just like I can't divorce myself from it. If I'm drawing, I have to care about it. And I'll force myself to care about it. And for a little while, I can get by trying to make it an experiment or focusing on soft skills or stuff like that. But in the long run, if I'm not able to use my brain, which is, as far as I'm concerned, the most important part of anything
Yeah.
that we do, if I'm not able to throw my ideas into this, especially when I'm being brought in during blue sky phases on things, it's like, then what's the point of me even being there? You
Yeah.
know, nobody's ever hired me for work I've done for other people. There's a reason why there's very little professional work on my art station is because that's not what I want to do. I don't want to do another Gears of War game. If they said, "Hey, we need you to do some more Gears of War stuff, and we'll pay you for it," I'll be like, "Okay, cool, that's fine." But I wouldn't be, hopping on a plane and heading down to Epic and buying a house down there and settling in.
Yeah.
Um, I need to be able to separate myself from it so I can focus on my personal work. And I think if I were at a studio like that, oh God, I should have shaved or something. I looked.
so
Um,
so you want to be a company for yourself. You're a creative person, and you consider yourself as a creative director and art director, so you can do everything. And I really admire that because a lot of artists, they that's their dream, but they never do it, right?
yeah, I mean, but there's guys out there that do. I mean, it's a huge risk, and there's a lot of people. There's a lot of artists that went to college or and became very good and then got a job right away and went and worked at that job and have
Yeah,
been working there for 10 years and have never experienced anything else. There's a lot of kids that by age 18 are fucking phenomenal these days, which is insane. It's absolutely insane to
I
see
agree.
18-year-olds that are far better than the bar for entry 10 years ago in the game industry. I think if I were just with my skill set now, just getting ready to enter the game industry, I don't think I'd ever get hired.
Same here. Same here. I agree completely. Yeah, but that's because the information there and everything is more available and you can learn. We didn't have that before, you know. It,
Oh, totally true.
there's more information circling around. However, I must say one thing, and I always like to say it. A lot of people, their images are very flashy, but they don't have the basic knowledge or the fundamentals, and that bothers me a lot because everything's so fast. They learn fast to do the flash image, but when you look at it a little bit better, you see that a lot of stuff is not functioning right.
Mhm.
So I
Oh,
have
oh
that's
yeah,
kind of
completely. That's my story, to be honest.
I don't agree on that, but okay.
I brute force my way through every image I create. My anatomy is terrible, and it requires constant tweaking and pushing and pulling and fudging around with. And my rendering is slow and pathetic. Uh,
Oh my god, too
I
harsh
think
on yourself. Too harsh.
I think the only thing that I honestly believe I'm relatively good at is sort of novel or clever design.
Okay, yeah,
It,
but
that's my joy. It's the reason why I have a hard time finishing anything is because when a new idea comes up, I have to get it down and work on it until I'm exhausted, until I'm just tired of it, and then something else will pop into my head, and I keep going and keep going. That's the reason why I've had so long working on any of these projects is I can't commit to one for a year straight just to finish it.
yeah.
Or I mean, I could if I were disciplined, but I end up, spending a couple of months at a time on one thing or another and obsessing over small details like we had chatted about on Facebook.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, it takes a lot of energy to be concentrated. I mean, keeping one project going all the time, that's super hard.
mhm.
Super, super. For some
Yeah,
people, for example,
how
it's
do you
great.
do it? Like how do you do it? You know?
Myself, me or
Yeah.
myself, well, I said that on the previous stream. When I used to play sports and stuff like that, I knew that I'm gonna run faster if I run away from somebody. So if I have the ball, I have to run with it, and somebody's chasing me. And I
Mhm.
always apply to myself that kind of push. So how do I do it? I post all the time about my book, and that's pushing me to keep the promises that I say. If I don't do them, I will feel bad, and I will feel that I disappointed somebody. So I'm
Mhm.
technically putting a wind in my back and something pressuring me to move forward, pressuring me to move forward. Also, I always had a really really big drive when I was doing that, you know. So that's my experience.
Mhm.
It's the way I push it. But since you mentioned that you like to do personal projects, is there any personal project that you would like us to talk about or that's coming?
Oh gosh, as far as see, this is going to make it sound like that this stuff is imminent in some way.
Yeah.
Because God knows the one I'm focused on most right now is uh, at some point I'll be like, I'm stumped. I don't know what to do, and I'll move on to one of the other ones. I've got a bunch of stuff I'm working on concurrently. Um, just whenever boredom pops up, I hop onto another one, and it sort of just goes through a rotation of about 2 months to 3 months of serious investment on five separate projects throughout the course of the
Yeah.
year. Uh, but I mean, there's one thing I posted images for years ago, something called Bastard Tiger that I've actually picked up again and sort of retooled. Like stories remained uh, similar,
Okay.
mainly the same, but I think I've exhausted at that time I had exhausted that design aesthetic I was working with,
Mm.
and and sort of things that I thought were novel and I was working on seemed to have been part of the public consciousness after a while, and I felt like if I released it, it might be cool, it might be successful. And by released it, I mean if I worked hard on it for a year and released
Yeah.
it, it might be cool or successful. But at this point, the sort of subject matter and inspiration was sort of so picked over that I didn't think there would be any point in it. Like I know perfect is the enemy of done, and I'm not looking for perfect. Uh, but I want something novel. I need to say something that is distinctly me. And it doesn't matter if this stuff came after or before or anything like that. It's just if I'm tired of an aesthetic, I can't continue to work in it.
Yeah. But
You know.
how do you get tired from aesthetic? Because I never heard anybody tell me that kind of stuff. That they're tired from their aesthetics. How do you get tired from that? What makes you get tired from that? That's the first
Um,
time I hear it.
well, again obsessed with novel ideas and new things. Like
Yeah.
it's the way I was with music. It's the way I am with art. Like I think I'll explore something to a certain amount, and if I feel like it has legs, I'll keep going and I'll keep pushing within that space. Like the main character for this thing is a character I've been working on for over 10 years, trying to figure out what it's all about,
Oh,
like
a lot,
what
really.
she is. And in that 10 years, it's gone through a ton of permutations because the whole thing started actually longer than that ago, which is honestly saying it out loud is sort of sad that I haven't gotten anything out by now.
Uh,
But it's just, uh, and maybe it's never going to be good enough. And maybe I'll just continue whiling away on it in obscurity and never release anything, but it makes me happy.
that's the main thing. You have to be happy, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people get lost in the job, in the money, in the doing stuff that we spoke in the beginning of stream. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's really important to be happy. Whatever makes you. That's one of the things of society that I always like to talk about. A lot of people, there is a lot of information around there on the internet and everything, and people compare themselves to it. But we
Mhm.
tend to forget that we are all unique. And for example, some people like red colors, some like blue. But there is sometimes happening that people who like blue try to like red just because somebody told them to like it.
Oh
And
yeah,
and
that's everywhere.
that happens a lot, not just in our industry, in everything, everywhere. For example, I want to do this because somebody told me it's cool, because I think I will be happier. No, 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 you have to be what you are, and that's the only way to go. That's how I perceive
Well, I mean, that works for you. It works for me. Or maybe it doesn't work for me, which is why I'm so unhappy at studios. Uh,
it.
but I think there's a lot of people out there that because what we do is everywhere now, they got into it because it's so visible.
Yeah,
It's you get to see so much more than the final product these days. Your exposure to people who do what we do is insane by
yeah,
comparison to when I was a kid. When I was like 16 and I thought I wanted to get into comic books and I was nonstop making my own characters. I tried sending letters to artists I loved and writers I loved, and I never got anything back. But now you can just Facebook message someone or email someone
yeah,
and you can follow their life and their sketches and see what makes them tick. But I think there's a lot of people out there that just want to make pretty pictures.
yeah.
And that's cool. That's totally fine. That's completely fine. It's just not how I work.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But that's fascinating that you said. I really admire it that you said you were sending letters to your favorite artists. I mean,
Yeah.
not a lot of people have the courage to do it, not even today when they can do it easy.
Well,
And
I mean, this was the early 90s. And the exposure you have to any sort of creative media is whatever you can purchase. You know, it's whatever's around you. You can't just look it up. You'd have to go buy a magazine or buy a
Yeah,
comic book.
yeah,
You couldn't look at somebody's artwork on their website, right? You would have to buy a book of their artwork, or you would have to know them personally.
yeah,
And I figured, I can't afford to buy every book I want. I can't afford to go out and get art books and comic books all the time. And I need more information than just, well, this is Mark Silvestri drawing the X-Men.
Hmm.
I guess Mark Silvestri really likes the X-Men, but that's not it, I mean, that's his job. I'm sure he enjoys it, but there had to have been something else that's driving it, right?
yeah.
Like I don't need to just sit there and dissect technique. I can do that all day. The older you get, the easier it gets for any of you out there struggling with it. But I want to know what makes somebody tick, like what they're passionate about, what gets them excited to do the work that they do. You
Yeah.
know, I think being able to copy someone's fine, but being able to figure out how someone's think and then work it through for yourself and not necessarily think in the same way, but figure out what makes you tick is valuable.
Do you think that copying other people's work is a good way to go? Many artists do it,
When you're a teenager, yeah, I think you should. I think you have to.
and
Uh,
students.
yeah, as a student, it's fine. I think if you're, but when I was doing it, you never posted anything publicly. You'd show your friends or something.
Yeah.
There was no internet. There was no internet. There was no Facebook. There was no ArtStation. ArtStation was the shitty sketchbook I had in my backpack that I would show my one friend at school who gave a fuck about.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so I think one of the things that's missing is the professional integrity angle of it, which I think has to start younger now because people are doing artwork younger. They're doing professional quality artwork younger. They're not being told what's good or bad as far as infringement, I guess,
Yeah.
plagiarism. And so you get a bunch of people that'll post amazing copied works of other things or inspired by other things, but they won't credit the original artist. And it's not always out of this insecurity of, oh, I want to just put up a pretty picture and I don't know what to do, so I'm going to copy this and not tell anyone. It's not always that. I'm sure it is sometimes. But it's just a lack of knowledge on what the proper etiquette for this sort of thing is. Like, you know,
Yeah. You said also you were sending letters and stuff like that. Were you, when you were young, were you able to speak with everybody, or you were shy, or how was with you because you were sending
I
letters?
I had a couple of friends. Um, I didn't have any problem mouthing off if somebody pissed me off, but for the most part, I was fairly quiet. For the most part, I was fairly quiet. I was not well liked as a child.
Hmm.
Not until I think later in high school things got a little bit easier and a little bit worse in different ways. But
Yeah.
I I was pretty awkward, emotionally unstable, and probably really fucking weird.
Who is not emotionally stable when they are younger, right?
But I mean like on an entirely unacceptable level. I
Yeah.
mean, I know this is like a completely unacceptable level. Like just so much anger and just confusion about everything, and probably a lot of entitlement and uh, yeah, I don't know. I think a lot from time to time when I'm dealing with problems with my children about what I was like in high school, and just cross my fingers and pray that they don't go through the same stuff. I'm sure they'll go through a lot of similar stuff, but the emotional turmoil that I acted upon in pretty destructive ways is not anything I'd wish on anyone.
Yeah. You live to learn, right? You
Oh
evolve
yeah,
from the situations and everything. It's the way it
hopefully,
is. It's the way it is.
hopefully.
Uh, but
If you keep hitting your hand with a hammer, eventually you'll move your hand, right? Like,
yeah, I agree completely. It will make you. You are the person who surrounds you. That's how I see it. The people who surround you, they show who you are, and the more you move through them, the same energy will vibrate. That's how it goes.
mm-hmm.
We have a question. Bjorn Huri says hello. Amazing Bjorn Huri, which I love. And he said, "What's Trevor's thoughts on old forum days versus today Insta connections?"
Wait, is there?
There is a
How
chat.
do I look at the chat?
Okay. You can
Oh,
go.
I can pop it out.
You open the YouTube video that's live on my
Ah,
channel, and there
oh,
it
hey,
is.
Bjorn. Yeah, okay, I see it now. I see it. Wow, I'm a fucking Luddite. Like, I don't know how to use computers except for Photoshop and maybe a little SketchUp. So please forgive me. What are my thoughts on the old forum days versus today's Insta connection? Jesus Christ, how much time do you have, dude? Fuck. Um, I don't know if the distant difference came because of the platform we have or because of a mindset change. But I do think back then there was an actual sense, or at least I had an actual sense of community. I regularly went to meetups and like invited people over to my house that I had never met before. We'd have like 15 or 20 artists over at our place in Long Beach and just hang out and drink and draw, like sometimes go out to bars and stuff like that. And it was great. And I think one of the things that was beneficial about the format itself is while you were going through an artist thread that you liked, you might see somebody critiquing on it, or you might see people speaking across multiple threads or multiple images in the same thread. And you get a sense for, maybe it's not the whole picture, but you would get more of a sense of who that person was. We weren't quite as protective with our second personas online because we didn't really have social media
Yeah,
quite yet.
yeah, exactly. I like how you said it.
And so I think people were more honest, but at the same time, by and large, pretty fucking respectful,
Yes, exactly.
and empathetic. And people were willing to help. People were willing to critique, but you would go through and you'd see all these critiques, and it was phenomenal because you'd be like, oh, I do that shit a lot. Maybe I should knock that shit out or figure out a way to solve that problem. And you would get to know people by their voices, and then maybe you'd just message them and talk with them, or you'd start following their work. And there was this beautiful sort of uh, online community that would spring up. And then on top of that, if you're fortunate enough to be in Southern California, like I was, you get to meet a lot of people, you know.
Yeah,
Um, and I think communication tools weren't quite as good, so the contact you had wasn't quite as throwaway. I think back then the internet was new to all of us too.
yeah.
We hadn't become jaded by it. We didn't have smartphones to walk around and stare at.
You also
Information,
respected it more, right? Because it
yeah.
didn't function perfectly. You couldn't send the message from everywhere in the world. You respected even that more, you
Yeah, yeah, but information was still valuable to us too. At this point, if you have a question, you just pick up the phone, look it up, put it down, and then 3 minutes later, you fucking forget it. You
know?
forget
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
I'm guilty of it. A lot of younger people I have worked with don't remember anything. They just look everything up. You ask them a question, and it turns into a Google search. And this is not meant to be a millennial or Gen whatever conversation. It's just my observations over the past, uh, dozen years working in the game industry.
yeah.
Um, but then they'll forget about it later and they'll have to go look it back up again. You know, like, we've also because of that lost oral tradition, like stories you would tell your friends or anything like that. You didn't send people links necessarily, or you didn't say, "Hey, go to this YouTube channel and watch this guy." You would describe things. Spoilers weren't as big of a deal back then because if somebody was going to go actually spend money on something because you had to spend money on something
Yeah.
until Stir, uh, or until like piracy sites, you'd want to know a little bit about it to figure out whether it was worth your money or not, you know. And so I think people just talked more. I think people were really open about their thoughts more and a bit more earnest and unguarded. And I think that lends itself better to community. You can see somebody's fragility and you can see somebody's strengths, and you can empathize with that and friendship. Like,
Yeah, the friendship is
hey, we like the same bands and the same artists. That's awesome too. Like, I don't
uh,
know.
yeah, it's I mean everything changed after the social media started, especially when there was before ICQ, there was mirrors and stuff like that, but when Facebook and other stuff started, that's that where that wall appeared in front of us, like the screen monitor.
Mhm.
When you're talking with somebody, you are always the young generation always sees that monitor and they think they're protected by it. When I always like to say this in Serbia, when we played video games, we went to the clubs for video clubs to play
Mhm.
games there, and you would sit there, and there were always older guys than me who were sitting there, And if I said something bad on the chat, there is a possibility somebody will smack me on my head because I'm rude and I'm disrespectful. And today there is no that fear because you're sitting in your room. There's nobody's gonna come and do that. And people lost a little bit respect there.
Oh, well, you add to that in the States, they have like zero tolerance anti-bullying policies. And look, I'm not going to say I enjoy being bullied,
Of course, I
but it
agree
did
completely.
but in some cases it did make me very acutely aware that there were some social norms that I was ignoring that maybe I should have been paying attention to. At other times, completely unjust, but I think it exists for one to help you to deal with assholes in the real world because they're going to be the same people. They're going to grow up and still be shitheads, you know?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
and two, it's just like, well, maybe you shouldn't be wearing a bathrobe to school. That's fucking stupid. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
uh, or maybe math class isn't the best place to talk about your love of anime porn or something. I don't know. I
Yeah.
think shame's a valuable tool. I think shame exists to tell us, because it exists within you. I don't think you can feel someone can make you feel shame. I really don't. I think shame exists. If you feel shame, it's because you know you're wrong. It's because you know you're doing something that you don't feel honorable about or you don't feel like cool.
I agree.
Yeah.
Speaking about emotions, which emotions do you think the designer should have to make a good design for you? I don't think anybody ever spoke about that, but what kind of emotions do you think the designer should implement in their design? I can start first because I've been thinking about that last 5 minutes when you said.
Yeah, go for it. Go for it, please.
Uh, I was thinking about that, guys. I've been thinking about that for 5 years because artists are like a creative explosion of emotions inside mostly, and I
Yeah.
was always thinking about it, what kind of emotions can enrich design, and I always thought that I always compare it with music.
Mhm.
And we are coming back to the thing where you need to love what you do because music nowadays is like all cling, clang, cling, 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 clang, cling, cling, because it's not loved anymore and because it's mass production of money. And in
Yeah.
80s and 90s, when there was the best music, we had good technology. So that
Mhm.
means in our case, we had vacuum tablets, we have 3D programs and stuff like that. But also people were doing it from the heart. And I always say I'm doing hard surface design. It's very cold and so on, but I put a lot of emotions when I'm sketching something on it. And you can see that in my designs when I'm sad, when I'm happy, when I'm doing it from the heart, that are the best ones because the ones that I do from my head only, where I think about only the function stuff like that, they never come out good. Do you think that's the case with designs for you?
I I think for me it's just I don't know. I just want to make things that I haven't seen, or some permutation of things that I haven't seen. I know somebody's going to say it's impossible to be original, or everything's been done, or everything's a fucking remix. And in certain ways that might be maybe that's true. We're all a product of our influences, and it's hard to get away from them. I get it. I understand. But when people say those things, it sort of seems more like an excuse to not try as hard.
Absolutely.
I just want to do shit people haven't seen. I want to. I told one of my students this when I was teaching at Brainstorm, and he's like, "What do you want people to feel when they look at your art?" And I said, "I want to awaken fetishes within them that they didn't know they had."
Very strong. That's
I
very
just,
strong.
I want people to get excited about stuff. I want people to say, "Oh shit, I haven't seen that before. I love the possibilities. This is like opened up a whole new space for me." Like back when I was a kid in the 80s and I was seeing Appleseed for the first time, Ghost in the Shell in the early 90s, Akira way too fucking young. It really was. It was way too fucking young to be reading that book. Like 13 or something. Or maybe it wasn't. I don't know. But uh, maybe 12. I don't know.
I like
I
to say everything happens when it should happen. That's how I say it. No matter the age.
Yeah. Except kidnapping. I think
And other stuff, but let's not talk.
yeah. That's not supposed to happen. But I mean, and then a little earlier than that, I grew up in Massachusetts on a sort of a peninsula called Cape Cod. I guess it's a peninsula. I don't know. It looks like a really scrawny arm flexing in the ocean. And I would take the bus into Boston with sometimes my brother or some friends, and we would go to the comic conventions they'd have there a couple of times a year, and we would just explore. And as a kid, on TV, the cartoons that most of the cartoons that were on there were like Japanese giant robot cartoons. It's like
Yeah.
Trans Z or Mazinger, Force Five, Getter Robo, or Star Avengers as they called it here, Space Battleship Yamato, or Star Blazers as they called it here.
Power
Uh,
Rangers.
um,
That's my generation.
that was a lot later, but I did on Sundays they would do a creature double feature, which was often like a Ultraman movie, and then followed by a Godzilla, or sometimes they'd do samurai movies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I would go to these comic conventions and just look for things that were cool that I had never seen before. You know, like that's how I found Nausicaa. It's how I found, like I said, Appleseed. There's so much of it. Gosh, Silent Mobius was one of them, I think. What else? I'm looking at my bookcase right now to see if there's anything on there that I can remember. It's like Hyper Weapon, I think at the time. I found that super weird stuff.
Okay.
Absolutely love it. Just just finding things that looked odd to me, looked like different but captivating, you know.
Yeah.
And it was by doing this and like doing these little exploratory outings and like just trying to find things that I had never found before that I sort of fell out of love with American comic books because I had thousands, you know, like I had just tons and tons. I still absolutely love one of the things I still absolutely love in American comics is um, the late 80s, early 90s, X-Men in Australia, Mark Silvestri comics. Those fucking amazing.
You are a big
Amazing.
fan of him.
Back then, yes. I think when they went to Image, I something happened. Everybody had been too influenced by Liefeld,
Yeah.
and so they all sort of started getting that like angry, thin line inking style on them, and I think that ruined a lot of it for me. Everybody became buffer and bigger. Body types failed to be a thing. Uh, uh, but his work on the X-Men in with the Reavers and the Australia stuff is just I guess there was way more than just the Australia stuff. It's just that's what sticks out in my head.
Yeah.
And like the Brood, I think. I bet it's just some of my absolute favorite American comic work. It's absolutely gorgeous. And but there were things like oh gosh, what else? Bubblegum Crisis. That was one I found like this video of, and I thought, oh, it's a cool fucking lady robot suit on the cover. I'm gonna get this. It turned
Nice.
out to be amazing, although I'll caveat that with saying I haven't seen the original series since probably the mid 90s or early 90s. So, uh,
By the
you know,
way, by the
30
way,
years. So,
your cat is behind licking its paws. I love it that it's in a screen and we see it like for last 2 minutes. Best
yeah,
position ever.
that's funny because I was convinced that he never cleaned himself. He's such a lazy, fat piece of shit. Come on,
He's
Betty.
look at
He's
him
absolutely adorable, but he's a giant, lazy ball.
like every cat.
Oh gosh, he's not the fattest cat I've ever seen, but
Pretty
he's
fat.
he's up there. Yeah, yeah. Let's see. People love cats, so let's get
Yeah.
him up.
Yeah. Do you use him as inspiration?
Um, Only when I'm drawing with my kids.
Hmm.
They like to see me draw a fat cat. Okay, go
I,
away.
I have where I'm living at the place. I have everywhere I live. I have alley cat that's black always, and I feed it. And now where I'm living here, actually, maybe he will come later.
Hmm.
I have a black cat that doesn't have one ear and fights with everybody. And I always think, what kind of cat are you without one ear? And he looks so evil, you wouldn't believe. And I think he doesn't like me very much, but he's a huge inspiration to me. And I think I have designed something. He inspired me to design one kind of weapon in the book. So yeah, I always see the inspiration in animals.
Nice. Oh, hey, Maisie's on there. Maisie, I used to work with Maisie.
Hi, Maisie.
She put two hands up. I don't know what that means.
She's
Maybe she.
giving high five.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I'm like I said, I'm a Luddite.
What makes for you? Speaking about character design, what makes for you a good character design? What is the thing that when you see it, you are like, okay, this is a good character.
I want to know more about them. You
Hmm.
know, that's uh, and of course, I'm going to say what I'm about to say with the caveat of it also the setting is important, right? Like I couldn't go in there and say Drake from Uncharted isn't original enough, because
Yeah,
he's a product of his environment. He's only as creative as he's allowed to be. And maybe in the case of a character like that, he's absolutely perfect because he's what he needs to be. He needs to be relatable enough. He needs to be uh, sort of fun because the truth is he's just a mass murderer. uh, and a guy who steals treasure. Um, but I like seeing things that challenge me. I like seeing proportions and design language that maybe would make me uncomfortable to do myself, right? But
Yeah, yeah.
that are still somehow appealing. I worked with this fantastic artist, Marco Mazzoni, at CCP, and his personal work. He's just got like the craziest, weirdest, cool proportions in some of his like sci-fi design stuff. It's just a lot of fun to look at and like try to wrap your head around. I really enjoyed it.
What is his name?
And
Sorry, one more time.
oh, Marco Mazzoni. He's
Ah,
I
okay,
think
I know Marco Mazzoli. I
not
saw.
not the guy who does like the flowers and butterflies. There's two Marco Mazzonis.
Okay, he does robots.
Yes, yeah, he does. He's the art director at Harebrained Schemes right now, working on BattleTech, I think.
Okay, I want to find him so I can share his profile. I
I don't know that he posts much.
He
I
has
haven't.
his website. I just found it.
Ah, cool.
Oh, very cool stuff. Very boxy designs. I love this. Nice.
Well, if it's the BattleTech robots, then those are, predefined.
Yeah, yeah. Here they are. He's working on it, so I want to copy the link. So, uh, have you gone to any art school before? Because I read on your profile that you are mostly self-taught.
I went to Otis College of Art and Design for one semester,
Okay.
and when I was a kid, like my parents signed me up for like some Saturday morning, kids art classes. I had a great teacher in high school. That was nice. He was to be honest, I don't remember at this point if he was the greatest teacher. Maybe he was, maybe he wasn't. I just remember him being empathetic to my awkwardness and my weirdness and my obsessive nature when it comes to this stuff. Like during my senior year, I was kicked out of school.
Sorry to hear
Um,
that.
no, no, it's fine. I fucking hated it. But I was just like, well, why didn't you just do it last year? I could have saved 6 months of this whole year. Um,
Very practical.
but I had spent a 67 days straight just in the art room. He knew I was skipping all of my classes, but he knew
Wasn't.
that wasn't going to do me any good, I think.
Yeah.
He knew that this is where my passion lied and he wanted to help foster that. And so he was very supportive. Uh, just a really like helpful and fantastic man. And he did all sorts of cool projects with us. Like we did animation. We actually got to paint cells and stuff like that. Like it wasn't always just like, well, draw flowers in a vase, and he let me sort of make my own projects. It was pretty cool. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's
I don't,
it's very nice that he was there to help you out in hard situations. That because that's what shapes you. When everybody's saying you that you suck, you start feeling that you suck. I know from myself because it was like that with me, and that kind of empathy really can push you in the right direction. It's like a
Mhm.
calling, literally. People always
Yeah,
appear that should appear in your life. So he has done a really good job because he pushed you towards art.
yeah, completely. And I did legitimately suck back then. I think for it being the early '90s and uh, shit like that, then maybe, as a kid, it's not so bad. But I legit blew.
Do you
Uh,
think that anybody can learn art and become good at it, or there has to be some kind of talent?
I think anybody can learn technique. And I think, and I think, well, no, no. Here's the deal. It's just like, uh, if even I can learn technique, I don't have very steady hands. I have the worst handwriting. I'm a terrible fucking draftsman. Like when it comes to sketchbooks and stuff like that, I'm completely embarrassed by my sketchbooks. One of my former students is sending me pictures of his laptop with my face on it.
Okay.
I don't know why, but it's rather funny. Um, like from the stream. Yeah, it is a little weird that he's laughing at me. Okay. Sorry, what was that? Uh,
Um,
Scatterbrain.
we were speaking for a second. You lost me also. So we were speaking
Terrible
about
fucking draftsman.
yeah. Can anybody become a successful artist? Oh my God, my
Oh,
brain stopped also for a second. I was like, what's happening? Can anybody become a successful artist? And you said they can
I
learn technique.
I believe anybody can learn technique. It's just a matter of are you interested enough to keep doing it and suck? Because
Yeah.
well, when you first get good, you will have spent most of your time sucking.
Yeah,
And looking at your work when it fucking sucks is painful,
of course.
especially when you get to the point where you're good enough to know your work sucks. See, the best part about, like, sorry, the worst part about sucking at art is that for the longest time you won't realize you suck at art because you're not good enough to tell. you
Yeah,
haven't you haven't trained your eye, right? Like there's artists, and I don't know if I could remember a name, not that I would say it because it's stupid and cruel, but there were artists I absolutely loved, like on conceptart.org, uh, whose work I have seen afterwards, like years later, like a decade later, but by the time I had probably gone to Riot or something like that, where I feel like, I still have a lot of insecurity about my work, but I kind of know what I'm doing.
yeah.
Um, and I'm comfortable with my work, if not satisfied.
Okay.
But I'll look back in some of these old artists that I used to like, just be like, "Whoa, that's so fucking awesome!" And I'll look back at that art and just be like, "What the shit was I thinking?" And then you can even see modern work where they didn't progress, and it's just like, how is this the person that I was all like, "Fucking whoa!" And something sort of made sense to me at that point. Well, like this is like a very recent sort of revelation in my life,
Yeah.
in the last 5 years, is that in my life, in my fucking life, the most influential artist to me was Rob fucking Liefeld.
Okay.
And it's because at 16 when he started, and you got to cut him some slack. He was fucking 16.
Yeah.
At 16 when he started, he made 13-year-old Trevor feel like, "Oh shit, I can totally do this. I
Okay.
can totally do this." He is so bad, yet working professionally, that it made me confident enough to keep continuing this. And at
Mm.
the time, of course, I saw him as a god. I thought he was fucking amazing. I was an angry, horny 13-year-old boy. So, of course, Rob Liefeld. And I don't know anatomy. Um, and so I just thank you, Rob fucking Liefeld. You're the fucking worst. And I love you because you make this possible. You gave me hope, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's terrible artists out there that can give you hope. But I think no matter how late in life this is, no matter when you decide you want to make this change, I think anybody can learn these skills to be at least a pretty picture maker. It's
Hmm.
just a matter of being honest with yourself. Um, when you're not naturally inclined to do this all the time, when you wake up one day and you say, "Fuck, man, maybe I'd like to be a concept artist. I love video games. I like the cool art they do. I look at it from time to time, but I don't draw. I wonder if I can do this." The answer is yes, you can fucking do this, but you will have to, if you're not one of those people that's tacitly inclined to draw all the time, tacitly driven, if it's not an inbuilt sort of impulse to draw all the time, to get these stupid and amazing ideas out of your head, then you're going to have to be more disciplined than somebody,
Yeah.
maybe, than somebody who just does this every day because they have to do it every day. But as long as they're smart about it, as long as you're smart about it, and you sort of make a loose plan that you shift on the fly as necessary. I think anybody can do this.
Hmm.
And I even think that when it comes to design work, I think taste can be developed. It's just a matter of getting outside of your comfort zone.
Yeah. And reading books, watching
Oh
as
God. Yeah.
and analyzing a lot. That's how I develop my style. Analyzing, and that's how you develop a style. I mean, here in Serbia, I can go out, but there is everywhere. There is nothing to inspire me so much except for beautiful women. But beautiful women are everywhere, and that's it pretty much. Architecture is so. We don't have futuristic buildings and stuff like that, but I analyzed over internet, and that's how I develop my style.
Hmm.
So I think that anybody can learn style, anybody can learn how to draw, anybody can become successful as long as they put in the hours, but in a smart way.
Yeah. And honesty. You have to be incredibly honest with
Yeah,
yourself.
yeah. In life also you have to be honest. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're not honest, you're not gonna do anything. I can every day tell to myself that I am the best artist out there, but that's a lie. And I can
Mhm.
tell myself that I don't see the line that's going bad on my design and that everything's okay. That's also a lie. But being honest and self-critic, that's the most important thing for me.
Yeah. There's just that one thing that you have to be careful about, which is don't don't turn that slider up to 11.
Oh,
Keep it around.
minus on 20. Minus on the 20.
Oh yeah, yeah. Mine is constantly at 20 or higher.
I like that we are giving advice, and ours always up. That's how it goes. But yeah,
Well, it's just you should be critical of your work. You should be hard on yourself, but don't be so hard on yourself that you doubt everything you do.
yeah,
The last couple of years with my hand injury, and the last see up until November, it was a year straight of no drawing, none at all.
hmm
Maybe it was October, but it was a year straight of not being able to draw. That period really brought out the imposter syndrome in me. Like the self doubt and self loathing about my artwork is just
yeah,
very hard to deal with when I'm not actually creating. It got to the point where it's just like I need to like learn some new skills because I can't do this for a living anymore. I don't know if I'm any good at it. It's ridiculous, and I'm sure everybody goes through this shit
absolutely.
in one way or another. But that time off was, gosh, definitely a trial, definitely an ordeal.
Yeah,
But what happened is like when I got back into drawing within a couple of days, well, a couple of working days, because when I was easing back into it, and I'm still technically easing back into it, I was not drawing every day, and I wasn't drawing for several hours at a time. I was trying to do like a half hour a day every day, and
okay.
seeing if that hurt. But when I got to the point where I could sit down for an hour or two, I found that all of my passive observation had actually just helped me. Like my rendering, my eye for color, my lighting, it's all better than it was, which is really strange, having not actually like physically cultivated it.
Yeah. How do you explain that?
I think I had just spent the entire time obsessing over it and observing. I was still like pulling reference material and stuff like that. I was still dictating notes to myself for things to try out once I got good again, and I would watch videos, not necessarily tutorials, but just you know just watching someone draw or paint. Not like even a tutorial, just like seeing how other people handle certain things. But I was studying it, everything around me too. And then in that time, I also moved to another country. Maybe I was just super inspired, but um, yeah, I think just because it was always on my mind, it was probably fairly easy for me to implement some of it because it had just
Yeah,
been mulling it over for so long.
that's very yeah. That's that. For me, that's extraordinary because you know the story. I will use this story because it's amazing. You know the story about Jay Braddock, the Cinderella Man movie,
The Cinderella movie,
Cinderella Man, where he's a boxer. Have you
like the
watched it?
Rush. Oh no, I have not. I just thought you were talking about the Rush song.
No, no, no. This is this is a Cinderella Man. It's from 2006 or five,
Okay.
and Russell Crowe is main character, and it's in a true story. So he was a boxer, and then Great Depression started,
Hmm.
and he injured his arm, his right arm, so he couldn't box. And all the time he was using for 1 year his left arm, and
Hmm.
he was right-handed. And then he got back in a ring. He became the champion of USA and whole world, and that happened because all of a sudden he could box with both of his arms. And because his style changed so much, and he was skillful with his left and right, and that's how I looked always at life. I could do 3D before, and I started as a 3D artist. I always say that very early when I was 18, and now I'm 30. That's
Hmm.
2006. And because I watched that movie, it was exactly 2006. And I always told to myself, okay, you are getting really good in 3D, but your 2D sucks. Learn to do 2D. And now I'm implementing them both. And it's an industry standard now, even. And I'm moving from one side to other, or from my left to right hand. And I think that a lot of people would give up, and they would like say, I don't want to do it because it makes me super uncomfortable. But I
Yeah.
think it's super important to do the kind of stuff to feel uncomfortable, to hate yourself a little bit, not too much, not on level 12, but on level 6, I think. And
Yeah.
it can
I think
give,
6 is comfortable. You have to hate yourself a little bit more than you love yourself,
yeah, yeah,
and you'll continue to get better.
yeah, 8. Let's put it on 8.
I mean, I mean, I mean,
10.
eight's doable. I think anything above 8 is completely self-destructive.
Okay, then your 8 is not like mine. uh, do you want to show us? We are almost on 1 hour, and we're gonna do it for 1 hour 20 minutes, as I told you guys, because
Okay.
I don't wanna. take too much time from my guests. Do you want to show us some of your process in sketching, or we want to do it in the next stream when I invite you? However you want.
Okay, so if we want to do a little process or something like that, I can do that, but just let me just
You want to share the screen or show the JPEGs? However you would like. I think they would like to see it. By the way, guys, while Trevor is doing that, hit the subscribe button for the new guests and stuff like that. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask, because we have now Trevor, and I think you would love to hear him answer your questions.
Okay, let me just see if I have anything like give me
No worries, we are here.
give me one second here. I will.
One sketch, 1 second.
I can't speak anymore. I've been speaking German half, or speaking bad German half the day, and then speaking to children for the other half. Let's see. Let me just open a new doc here, and I'll hit the screen share button, and I'll just doodle around. I don't know if it's going to be like my process, or I don't think I really have a process. I have a work process that I'll use for professional stuff, just because you can't always be experimenting with that. Like you have to get, you eventually have to deliver something to your client.
Yeah.
But for the most part, like I'm just constantly trying out whatever new techniques I can. Okay, how do I screen share in Skype? Jesus.
You have a button for screen sharing, and it's next to the heart.
There,
Yeah.
there it is. There's a heart? More options. Share screen.
Show reaction. Yeah, there is share screen.
Hey, there we go. Why is that? No, this one.
Perfect.
Is that actually coming up?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know what I'm gonna do here. I'm just gonna do something. Maybe a character, maybe a lady.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Do you always start with a gray color? I have to ask immediately. Do you start always with gray color, or you work in white also?
I'll do with white. I'll just drop in whatever, a crazy blinding color. Maybe that's a little much.
Yeah.
Fuck it, whatever. It's a little much. Cool. Let's go with it.
Okay.
I'll just whatever I feel like. If it's just like this where I'm just sketching, then it's not particularly that important. I suppose at a certain point in the drawing, you're going to want to tame it a little bit, because you'll have to worry about your values and your color, your saturation, and everything like that. But maybe in the beginning you'll find something that you like about it later on. Maybe there's something to be gained from starting off like a jackass. And I do think it's stupid that I'm doing this. I do think it's dumb, but I think, again, it's the comfort zone conversation we were having.
Yeah.
It's just, if it's dumb, there's possibly some way to make it cool. Right? Like that's when I was doing a lot of like live streaming, like most of what I was just trying to do was just taking really bad ideas and make them provocative.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's still viable. I think it's still something that's a fun way to sort of flex their creativity
I see.
a little bit.
So you're first starting with black color and initial sketch.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I'll do white background and then colored line work. There's no wrong answers, I think, at this stage.
So you like to switch a lot while you're working, so it makes you fresh and it gives you inspiration.
It's because I think it's the whole. I don't know if I have ADD, but I do get bored with things like this rather quickly, or with technique rather quickly.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this. Let's just play, see what we got.
While you're doing that, I have to ask, what is your inspiration? I used to talk about comics in your childhood. Today, what do you look for and search when you are finding the inspiration?
Um, Finding inspiration. I don't know that I've ever really had to go looking for it, to be honest with you.
Hmm.
Uh, I think the real world is inspiring enough, like it's very uh rare that I bother looking at concept art beyond like what my friends post on Facebook,
Yeah.
because I want to see what they're up to. I mean, they're my friends because I think they do good work, and I think they're provocative, and so I'm curious about it, right? And um, but I think there's so much stuff in the real world. It's just like whatever strikes my fancy. It's just like if something I see something cool, maybe I'll jump in and do research on it, and then that'll lead me somewhere else. Just sort of rabbit hole, right? Like and just explore until I find something to really latch into.
Uh-huh.
Um,
I see.
and it's not the most exciting answer for what inspires you, I know, but and the truth is, it's just I find it hard most of the time not to be inspired. There's just so much cool shit out there in the world.
There really is. From technology to costumes to fashion design to, I
Uh,
mean, anything can be used as inspiration.
Nature, just like
Of
nature in
course.
general is super. I mean, it's just crazy.
Yeah, because it has been fixing problems for such a long time. I mean, people have been making design for how long? 100 years, and
Yeah.
that's when we are really doing it. And I must say, we have to admire ourselves a little bit because we are always saying that we are not anything special, but I think we are very special because we had only like 100 years to make cool stuff and to improve the world and everything, and nature had millions of years to make a perfect being who can breathe underwater, breathe air, fly, and so on. So I think that's admirable.
Yeah, fuck you, nature.
No. That's not what I said.
First we outdid you, and now we're going to destroy you.
Yeah, that's always the next step. There is a thin line between love and hate.
Yeah. Not sure where I'm going with this.
Okay, we have 20 minutes, so take your time easy and just so people can see a little bit of your technique. I think they would really appreciate it.
Oh, well, then they're in for a treat. Will they watch me meander uh, through designs that have no hope of being any good?
Why not? Maybe in the future you can finish them.
We'll see. We'll see. I'm just hopefully something interesting can come of this. Hmm. Let's see. I'll just do a bunch of shitty sketches. I'll even throw them away. They don't matter. They're not important. I spent very little time on them, so why
That,
bother?
yeah, that's quite fast, like 7 or 8 minutes, and you have already two initial
Oh
blockouts.
shit, was that 7 or 8 minutes? Okay, I need to speed up.
uh, you don't zoom very much, as I can see in the initial stage.
Not yet. Yeah. And that is a burden. I mean, that's really hard to resist. It is. It's. I get it. Like I understand you want to get in there and start doing details, and I generally get in there too early and start doing them. So occasionally I try to be disciplined uh, about that sort of shit and like just resist doing it. Eventually I'll end up obsessing over every detail anyways until I lose interest with a piece. So why not just stave that off for a little bit and resist the urge to zoom in for a while.
Yeah. For me, the artists always, we don't like restrictions and stuff like that. I love the restrictions, but I'm weird. So artists mostly don't like restrictions, designers and so on. We like to sketch and whatever falls on our mind and stuff like that. And I think that the best ones, they restrict themselves a lot, and there is always a process that they go for years. Same approach until they master the craft, and then they start breaking the process and being able to move much faster in a different manner. Do you think that also?
Um, I don't know. I mean, I guess I don't stick with anything long enough to really find out. I, that's the sad truth, I think.
That is the truth. I mean, you already sketched three initial ideas and you erased them. If I was doing that, I would probably trying to do only one. So characters, yeah, different approach.
You know, it's like I'll do the same thing with the little bit of tech design stuff I do. Um, and this is just uh, I'm going into this without really any sort of preconceived notion of what I should be doing.
Yeah,
Uh, and so because I don't have that initial idea, I'm being a lot less precious about my sketches. I think, sometimes I'll go into something where I have a very particular idea of what should be, and I'll generally spend a little bit more time exploring individual sketches at that point.
yeah.
I mean, I'll yeah, let's see.
I see that you can draw characters in a pose very easily. Have you taken the pose some classes for posing and stuff like that, like crocky sketches very fast?
No, then thank you for saying that because that's lately is my biggest source of imposter syndrome is that I hate every pose I do.
Mm,
I feel like they're imbalanced, and I think at this stage it's easy to make them look like I keep using the word provocative, but it's the word I want. To keep making them look like it's easier to make them look provocative at this stage because you haven't ruined them yet by trying to flesh them out more.
yeah.
Um, and because like the longer you look at it, the more inconsistency and proportional problems you'll see with it. It's just the way it is, right? Like familiarity breeds contempt in my case. Um, so see, look, I'm already just second guessing stuff. Let's see if I can do something fun with it. And then
How do you know when you should stop and stop changing and so on? What is your experience with that?
when you should stop changing,
Yeah,
like when you should start just go in with the thing.
with the details and fixing the legs, proportion, everything. How do you know when to stop?
When you've maybe you haven't figured out the proportion, like fixed the proportions in here, but when you've got like your goal, like when I say, okay, I'll fix that in the process, and I'll fix that in the process as I go through with design. Like when I know that that's what specifically has to happen to make a thing good. God damn, what am I doing here? Then I'll start pushing forward. Like I have some vague like I have like sort of a vague interest in the leg shapes I have going on here, but I don't know what to do with the top. So maybe I
Hmm.
should repeat some of that. And it's still this is the longest one of the ones I've been doing, but it's still fair game to just dump it any second now if I don't feel like it's going anywhere. Let's see.
Speaking about communication with people, will we see you at some festivals this year?
Yeah, I will be at ISCC in Croatia next month.
Oh, nice. In Split.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I've never been to Croatia. I want to see what that's all about. I'll actually be going to Serbia in 2 weeks.
Really? When are you coming here?
Um, I have no idea what city I'm going to. One of my wife's best friends from college lives in Serbia right now,
Oh,
and so we're gonna visit him. I'm sure he's in.
Belgrade or Novi Sad?
Yeah, I think he's in Belgrade.
I'm in Belgrade. If you are here, hit me up.
Oh fuck yeah, sketch night, dude. Like or
Yeah.
whatever that entails.
By the way, we are having tonight drink and draw, Serbian drink and draw. We organized it, so there's gonna be Milan Nikolic with Master Studio, Hunter Schultz, Nemanja Stankovic, and other guys will be there tonight. So we are having a drink and draw, but maybe we can organize in 2 weeks one more.
Dude, that would be fantastic. That would be really fucking fun. I don't drink, but I love hanging out with drunk people.
I don't draw when I'm out.
See, that's funny. It's like whenever I go to Seattle, I always go to the drink and draw there, and I almost always end up being the only one drawing, and I'm not the only one not drinking, which is the funny part.
But the funny part is that I don't even drink. so I'm the most lame person there. I don't drink, I don't draw, so I don't know what to say. I mean, I always was thinking about that stuff when we go to festivals and I see people sketching on festivals, and I'm like, I have come here to socialize and to talk with people. I just can't. I can't draw. I mean, I admire them so much that I can draw, but I can't, you know.
I don't know. It's just like maybe it's social anxiety. I just have no problem with it. Like I have absolutely no problem with just pulling out a sketchbook wherever I am or the iPad or whatever and just uh, doing whatever I have to do. And I, I I don't ever really do it to be antisocial. I prefer to have people around me drawing in a situation like that, but I just have to do it.
Yeah,
Especially in a situation like at a convention where you're super pumped and inspired by what everybody's doing around you, and you know you're having conversations with people that get you thinking about design and potential, and I don't know. I think it's cool. It's
yeah,
fucking cool, dude.
yeah. I agree. I love to socialize and to talk with people. For me, it gives me fresh energy, fresh ideas, fresh
Oh
thoughts.
God, yeah. And you know you'll end up meeting some people that maybe you wouldn't think you would have been, you know, friends with. Some people who have bizarre, challenging ideas or design work, or maybe you just don't have a good sense of people and you come away with a new appreciation for someone, not just because you like their artwork, but because you found out that they're a human that you really enjoy.
Yeah, the best is when their artwork is amazing and they're amazing human beings. Double
Oh
win.
no, that's the worst. Then it's you would love to just hate them, but you can't because they're awesome people, and it makes you hate them even more.
Yeah, I don't have that kind of experience.
Do you just meet assholes? Just total assholes?
Depends. It depends if it's a full moon or not. Yeah, I have a lot of funny stories. I will tell you when you come to Belgrade. Sometimes I write them on my Facebook. But yeah, I have a lot of stories with people because I move a lot around, and yeah, there is a lot of people on this world. That's how I can say it.
Oh yeah, there's some real special animals in this world. Uh,
Mm,
very special.
yeah.
Okay, no idea where this is going, but it's looking fun so far.
What is your hardest part of the body to draw, and why?
Um, I I think it's just like general balance, like making something feel grounded, making somebody feel like just a pose that has like cool weight and personality to it. Like I tend to over stiffen as I uh, finish them up,
Yeah.
and let's see, why would he have those arms? Why would he have those ridiculous fucking legs? That stupid fucking torso, and why would he have those arms?
Someone has been working out bench, not bench, squats.
He would have these arms.
Hmm. By the way, we are finishing with that sketch,
Okay.
so you know, give him the arms, don't erase
Well,
them.
that's fantastic. Okay, we could do something better than T-Rex arms. Just give me like 2 minutes.
I love T-Rex, and yeah, nice. And what are you most comfortable with when you are drawing? What kind of characters or props or anything? What is the most comfortable area for you?
My go-to, like my favorite types of characters to work on and design are just like tough chicks.
Hmm.
Like I'm not one of those people that feels the need to make every female character sexy or attractive. I love the idea of super tough chicks, like just smart, powerful brawler, just punch you in the face sort of characters. I don't know why. Maybe it's my early love of late '80s, early '90s Riot Girl culture,
Yeah.
and you know bands like Bikini Kill and Huggy Bear and shit like that. But I just fucking love it. Let's see if he can get a little loincloth to cover up his Ken doll front bits.
Uh, for the end, while you're finishing that sketch, what
Yeah.
is the advice that you would like to give to young designers and artists out there?
Um, I don't know if it's advice so much as just a question. Uh, who gives a fuck what anybody else is doing? Like really? Like who gives a fuck?
Hmm.
Who cares? Do you think you are more valuable as a Xerox copy of somebody else, or do you think that there is value in the original thoughts and ideas that you can bring to the table? I wouldn't worry about anything being too weird. I wouldn't worry about being alienated. I wouldn't worry about being too ahead of people's expectations because if you're actually making good work, even if it's unconventional, eventually people will catch up to you.
Yeah.
And you'll be the guy who's ahead of their time, or you'll be the guy that everybody's like, hey, remember that guy who died alone and penniless? He was so ahead of his time. Uh,
Yeah, you can always become very rich when you die as an
that's
artist.
so sad. Um, but it's like Beksinski, right? Like the guy dies and now he's just being plagiarized to high heaven everywhere. Uh, which is what is it, Vladislav Beksinski? Is that his name?
I think it is. I'm not sure, to be honest.
But I mean, that guy,
Yeah, yeah, it's Vladislav. It is Vladislav.
his work is terrifying and beautiful and thought-provoking, and I don't know how well off he was when he was alive, but I do know now everybody knows who he fucking is, at least everybody in our industry.
Yeah. I spoke on the other stream about that, and I was shocked. Van Gogh, when I saw the photos of Jupiter, and they looked same as Van Gogh paintings, and I was like, oh my God, because they never could make photos until the last year, and
Yeah.
NASA made photos of it, and the Jupiter was exactly the same as Van Gogh's paintings, and I was like, damn, this guy was connected to the universe. So that was shocking to me how much ahead of his time was. And you know that a lot of people are like, his paintings are so weird, they scream at me. And many people don't love them, but he was so much out of time and connected with universe. That's why people he became famous later.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, and on top of that, I think he was also like a notoriously hard to deal with human being.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
everybody. I read some of his biographies where people talk about him, and the analysis about him. He was super hard, super.
and I think maybe that's, you know, here's some more advice. Be patient with people you don't fucking understand.
That's a great advice. That's a
They
great.
probably know some shit that you don't know.
Yeah, I like how that character is turning out. I wish we had more times.
Oh,
Uh,
that's okay. He is a dumpster baby, and he can go back to the dumpster from whence he came. Nothing is precious, dude. That's more advice for you.
perfect three advices, guys. So, guys, we are wrapping it up. I'm so happy that Trevor was today. He was super fun, and there was a lot of cool talks here. Thank you for coming and watching this stream. Hit the subscribe button. In meantime, I wish you a good day or good night. I don't know what time is there. So, goodbye, everybody. Goodbye, Trevor.
Thanks for inviting me on and listening to me rant and ramble like a insane jackass.
No, no, it was super fun. I loved it. Goodbye, guys.
All right, later.